Okay, it being the evening of Wednesday, June 22nd at 7 o'clock, a quorum being present, I will call a meeting of the Bellingham Conservation Commission to order pursuant to Governor Baker's signing of Senate Bill 2475, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website, www.bellinghamma.org. Okay. Let's proceed with the first continuation. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold public hearings in accordance with the continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed project consisting of toe embedment of an existing armored slope in order to provide for a stable slope foundation and located in the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. The filing also proposes 1,330 square feet of buffer zone restoration for buffer zone disturbance. The project is located at Assessors Map 64, Parcel 212, Lot B, 0 Lovers Lane, Bellingham. Mark Arnold, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Rick Terrell, Sol Center Realty, Milford, Mass. The continuations will be held on the evening of Wednesday, June 22nd at 7. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. Along with myself is Kevin Martin, who's from UTS of Massachusetts, who's the geostructural engineer for the project. And our hope tonight is to just have UTS provide the commission and BSC an update on their letter that they submitted, just revising some further details that they thought would help clarify and expedite BSC's review of the proposed improvements to the armored slope, just to ensure that the slope that is currently there, that's stable, will remain stable for the long term. Unless the commission has an objection, I'm going to turn this over to Kevin. Kevin, if you want me to share the letter on the screen, I can do that.
Yeah, you can share it if you want. But essentially, we were asked to review the structural stability of this armored slope, riprap boulder slope. We went out there, I don't know, maybe 18 months ago. We did an evaluation. We found the slope to be stable, but they needed some improvements and small details that would need to be addressed to provide long-term stability. Some of the improvements were related to the adjacent roadway. We wanted to maintain traffic load far enough away from the slope to not have impact, and that was done by the civil. And we did recommend that any drainage from the roadway be collected with berms and typical storm drainage, so it didn't go over the slope, and that has been done as well. So with those improvements, we have no issue with the long-term stability of the slope. There were a few other measures that dealt with the slope itself and the adjacent wetland. One of them is we did recommend some, chinking of the boulders with, smaller riprap to fill some of the voids in. And then we did request some toe embedment with a soil slope at the toe, which has been shown on the plans, just a vegetated grass slope with like a 3-to-1 slope. So with all of these, with the existing conditions, the fact that it's been there for, I don't know, 1-2 years under traffic, exposure, winter, summer conditions, heavy rain conditions. There haven't been any incidents. We have no, and then with these other improvements, we don't see a problem with the stability, short-term or long-term with this armored slope.
And just so the commission's aware, we did submit a revised plan that was assembled in coordination with UTS, with Gary and Hell9, just updating clarification of what UTS and Gary and Hell believe is necessary for the slope, particularly the erosion control that's proposed at the bottom with double Judy matting, adding plantings further up to engage and to provide root mass, long-term root mass to the base of the slope, so that way the toe embedment is firmly in place. And any other issues that BSC has raised, at least in verbal comments during hearings, are addressed in the UTS letter. Mr. Chairman, I don't see Frank from BSC group here. I only saw Dominic, and I'm not sure if Dominic was here for BSC just to kind of hear these comments, or if Frank will just be provided the recording.
Okay, so Frank is no longer with BSC. Dominic will be handling the review. But while that plan is up, Mark, can you? I'm looking at the actual plan here. This is the plan that was revised May 17th, correct?
This was revised actually June 14th. So it was this was revised.
Yeah. Okay.
More recently.
But the revision date shows.
Oh, you're right. May 17th, correct. The stamp is June 14th.
And so I'm looking at the two catch basins that are being proposed. And then when I look at the site plan, I don't see them located in the roadway.
So just as the G&H letter mentions, I mean, the street cross-sectional detail is a general detail to give an idea of what could be in the roadway, but it's not necessarily a straight up cross-section of exactly what is behind the slope in a certain location. And so the idea is that, I mean, there's utilities in this roadway, but there's no necessary structures directly behind this wall. The structures are located down a double catch basin at the end of the cul-de-sac, and then there's another set of doubles further up here in front of lot 8180 here. So the cross section again is it's a generic, just to kind of get an idea of where this is how the road is kind of laid out. You've got a crown, you've got utilities. It's all been raised in fill material. So the original ground was well below the original grade here. It's all being raised up. So in the sense of the groundwater is deep because the road was raised over existing grade. And then the key to this cross section is the how the slope treatment is being prepared.
And I thought that at one of the previous meetings, we had talked about the installation of the catch basins to intercept any potential water that could overflow onto the upper embankment.
So just to review the stormwater design here, the stormwater design for this roadway is catch basins in front of lot 80 with curbing that goes all the way down and around the cul-de-sac to the double set of catch basins at the end of the cul-de-sac. So all runoff off the pavement is captured on the road and kept on the road until it reaches a catch basin on the roadway itself. So there's no possibility of infiltration of water coming off the pavement onto the slope here because you actually have a curb. So this is not a countryside drainage roadway where you have sheet flow directly off pavement onto the vegetated side strips of the road. This is a curbed road that directs all sheet flow along the curb to the catch basins at the end of the cul-de-sac, and therefore no runoff off the road is going to reach the armored slope.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a modified Cape Cod berm, not a curb. Is that correct?
Correct. It's a modified Cape Cod berm. If you wanted to technically, yeah, it is that versus a
Well, I think in order to assure long-term stability here, what we're looking to do is make sure we have a positive capture of any water. A Cape Cod berm will give much less reliability in terms of peak flow capture than would a standard curb. And I know that we've had some conversations with the DPW director. I know he prefers that. I don't think he's put that into writing. Has he had conversations with the administrator on that?
Yes, he did, but he said he had a couple other comments on the plan. I told him we were going to be reviewing this evening, and that he would have some time to review it. He was quite busy, and I think he had some personal things going on. So I didn't want to put that pressure on him to get a comment out yet, comment letter.
So Mr. Chairman, I think that's a fine comment. I think BSC is capable of reviewing that comment. This is a road that has a crown in the center, but it is pitched to the cul-de-sac. So the volume of runoff that can reach the curb and would have a directional flow towards the armored slope is fairly minimal based on the topography of the roadway and the pitch to the cul-de-sac itself. If the administrator or DPW have any comments, we'd really request that they expedite those. This has been under review by the DPW for quite a long time. This plan has been before the commission for quite a few months now with proposed curbing, and there's been no questions or concerns about the curbing, at least that I've heard until tonight. But again, we welcome that comment. We welcome BSC's review of it, and any comments that the DPW has, we'd request that they be put in writing, just so we have a clear guidance on exactly what the town is looking at, so we can provide the appropriate changes as our design team feels warrants changes and or can be accommodated. Again, we welcome those comments. I just want to make sure that we have them in writing. That way it helps our team to articulate our responses and make sure we address things appropriately.
And we certainly understand that, Mark. And in fact, they've asked him to put those in writing. So we understand where you're coming from on that. It's important.
Right, and we await BSC's comments as well. But I will say, the first time I saw the plan with the cross section, it was somewhat misleading because it didn't inform us that this was a generic cross section. When we look at this actual cross section, it's like 250 feet from the location of the wall. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that was. I think it was a little misleading because I don't know about the rest of the members, but I was under the impression that we would provide an extra layer of protection by having a couple of catch basins in the immediate vicinity of the wall itself.
So again, I would defer to BSC. They are the town's peer review. The commission has asked them to peer review this for stability, and I think they have the capabilities to review this from a technical and analytical position and provide good comments to the commission on if there needs to be captured directly behind the wall or not, considering the existing grading of the road. And I understand that Dominic has just jumped on to this project, but if he has any questions for Kevin tonight, we'd welcome any comments that he has, understanding that he may have further questions that he will issue in his letter review.
I have no problem with that. Dominic, if you'd like to weigh in on any of these issues, even though it's a public hearing, so it's somewhat formal, but it's not a written submission. We would welcome any comments that you have.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's Dominic Rinaldi with BSC Group. As you mentioned, Frank DiPietro is no longer with BSC, so I'll be taking this over. One thing that I think would maybe be helpful along this line, Mark, is, and it may help, is in the plan view of this plan, that there's no topo in the road, it's just on the slope. So I think, certainly it appears with a catch basin at the far, I guess that's east, and the cul-de-sac and other catch basins in the road that we're somewhere near a high point where this slope is?
So this is the high point here, and this just continues to slope down. So I think
Well,
I don't know what the inverts are, but so you have
Yeah, the
elevation 298 up here, and it goes down here, and then you're down
so is it continuous slope
It's a-
to the,
it's a-
to
Yes.
the east?
Yes.
I've been out there and it's relatively, you know, it's not a steep slope. So I honestly don't, and it wasn't finished at the time. So I don't remember, you know,
Oh.
being able to tell which way the road was really great.
This is Elizabeth from Garrier and Hellman, and the slope is the only reason those catch basins are located right where it says Lover's Lane is because we need to keep catch basins at specific, you know, you can't be collecting water over great distances. Yep. So the only water that is going to be, you know, it's sloped from it slopes, Lover's Lane slopes down to those catch basins on either side of the word lovers, and then continues to slope downward. So the only stormwater that is actually going to be in the road is any stormwater that lands from those catch basins down basically to the slope. Everything's gonna get caught by the catch basins, and in particular when you have a flat road like this, you don't have you don't have water bypassing catch basin. So there'll be very limited amount of water on the of stormwater on Lover's Lane. And I don't think putting in another set of catch basins is going to help the situation any. And, you know, I would be hesitant to want to dig right behind, you know, would be digging right behind the slope. And not that it can't be done, but it's just, I prefer not to, unless there was something to be gained from it.
Elizabeth, do you have the original calculations from the stormwater report that was submitted with the original filing?
Are you asking if I do?
Yeah.
Yes, we have them.
Okay. Well, maybe that would provide a little clarification to the peer reviewers so that we can qualify the volume that we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, you're saying it's minimal volume. You know, what is minimal volume? You know, in a 10-year storm event, what is the volume of that reach?
Yeah, except it wouldn't be in the stormwater report that exactly that way. It would be, I don't know how I don't know if it was, typically when we do the stormwater calculations, we're not doing it to each individual catch basin. Typically we do it to basically figure out where, when it gets to the detention pond or whatever, that's when we are calculating a volume. We would have some idea for the calculation of the size of the pipe, but that's, I can certainly give him.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth, the best thing would be to show to just provide a drainage area to the slope, basically. What drainage area reaches the curb line right about here, it's just behind the slope. So what drainage area is from here up gradient. And again,
to those catch basins. That's it.
It's so the watershed is from these two arrows here, and it's half the width of the roadway. That's the only area that hits the roadway. So you're talking about a very small area of watershed. Yeah, basically like this area right here.
That's like 150 feet.
Yeah, it's a very small. That's the watershed that reaches this point right down here at the edge of the curb. And again, all this water is pitching in this direction here towards that double set of catch basins, and it travels down here and then sheet flows to here. So as the water goes down, it actually goes down at a angle like this.
Right,
and then eventually comes to here and then goes to here. And so that's the volume, which is, again, it's a very small volume because you've got a pitch in both directions. So even the likelihood of ponding of water as it runs along the curb, along that Cape Cod curb, is pretty minimal because the road is so pitched.
Chair, how high is the Cape Cod berm from the surface of the street to the top of the berm?
So actually the in Bellingham, it's very unusual, but in Bellingham, the Cape Cod berm goes on top of the finished coat of pavement. So typically a Cape Cod berm provides about 4 inches of reveal, because the first inch and let's see, well, this is different too because the way we did it, but usually the bottom 1.5 inches or so is kind of covered by the final pavement. But in this case, it's closer, it's actually quite close to 6 inches because it goes on top of the final coat of pavement. So it's the full height of the Cape Cod berm. I don't know what it is exactly.
Well, there's just nothing shown at all there for detail. It would have been nice to have some sort of measurement, since we're so concerned about making sure that we have something, either a real regular curb or vertical, or knowing at least what's being proposed. It looks like a very small amount on that, and you got to guess because we don't have it. So that's what
the Cape Cod berm detail is on the full set of plans. If we had known that this was an issue, we would have certainly added that detail to the plans, but we didn't. Nobody had mentioned it, as far as I know, that they were.
And as a reminder, there was a vertical wall here proposed with the Cape Cod berm, and now we have a slope. So the wall is now a different nature than even the vertical wall. So I think it's important to have that. But I think if that's something that BSC feels is important, we can definitely note that. But as Elizabeth stated, we have a curb of over 4 to 5 inches in height at a minimum that is holding back minimal water, because the water is already going down the street. But that's a good comment, and we'll definitely take that under advisement. If there's anything else, we're glad to take those questions or comments. And again, we understand Dominic's got, this is very new for him, so I understand he may not have anything at the moment, but we wanted to make sure that if he had any questions specifically on the presentation tonight, we could provide clarification. We're glad to do that.
Yeah, and in particular, Kevin, G&H can answer the, drainage questions and things like that. And I don't have that's easy enough for me to, sorry. It's easy enough for me to answer, coordinate with BSC, but Kevin Martin is, a specialist, and go see Daddy, please. Is a specialist in the structure of the wall, and can speak to things that I can't speak to. So if in particular, if there were things in BSC's, BSC was questioning some things in the in Kevin Martin's report. That's the stuff that I would like to try and get to tonight, if at all possible, because I don't want to tie up his time any more than we have to.
Okay, I have one more, we have another hearing scheduled. I have one more question for Kevin. He may not be aware of the history of the project, but the wall did blow out on one occasion, and it required some reconstruction. There were some substantial voids that the commission noticed when we were out there. Is it possible that some of that, those voids could have been caused by some infiltration of water from behind the wall, and it cleared out the soils so that now they're just voids and the soil's already gone? I mean, we don't typically get this kind of a constructed wall of that height holding back a roadway. So, what I need Kevin to understand is that the commission is representing the DPW and the zoning board, because the long-term stability of this is going to be paramount down the road. And so that's kind of a comment I have. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that that wall had failed once before.
Okay. I wasn't aware that it failed, but the road isn't a filled condition. So any water that is seen by the slope would have to be storm water related. At this time, with all, again, it's been exposed. If there were erosion, you'd see erosion. You would see silt and sand, and I'm not aware of any erosion that's going on, and again, there's not going to be any groundwater erosion, and we're taking measures to contain the stormwater with the roadway and the in the berms like we're discussing. So this slope should be dry. It should be dry, so I don't see any issues with erosion long term.
Okay, so we've given Dominic some information to think about. Have you got any questions that you might ask of the applicant at this time, Dominic?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of, I think, relatively quick things, some just for my own sort of edification. So when this slope was built, was UTS or anybody else out there, did you see it? Or do you, I guess my basic question is, I know in your report you referenced that the stones are at least 3 feet thick, and I was just as much curious to know, do we know that for a fact? Have we seen that? Are there pictures from when it was built? I guess it was built a few years ago now, just to make sure that certainly if it is 3 feet thick, that sounds really good, but if it isn't and everybody just says it is, then it's potentially more of a problem.
Yeah, we weren't out there during the construction, so it sounded like there was a wall proposed somewhere and went to a slope. Yeah. Somewhere someone asked to verify the stability of the slope. So we went out there. We've done several inspections. We've taken measurements. We probed. So this is all our evaluation was done as built. To the best of our knowledge, but we did go out there, take measurements, probe, did whatever. We put together a conservative profile, and from that profile, we ran some analysis. And the slope of the actual batter of the slope was taken into consideration. There could be larger boulders, but this is what we could measure.
Okay. And then I guess a couple of questions, and maybe these are things to think about for kind of everybody, but so when I went out there, the top of the slope wasn't sort of consistent at the point yet. It was a little rolling. In order to get that consistent so that the shoulder does grade back towards the roadway itself, is this slope going to have to be built up at all, or how are you going to sort of finish that edge? And if that's the case, is there a spec to sort of finish that edge? And the pictures I've seen and the pictures I took, is it fully where it needs to be in order to build kind of this cross section, minus the catch basins and all?
Yeah, so I don't think it would be necessary. I don't think it's necessary to extend the armored slope any higher in order to get the area pitched, the shoulder pitched to the road. That's something that, there's actually very little pitch typically from the right of way to the shoulder. And again, you're talking about such a small amount of stormwater that would fall on the shoulder itself. And
so Liz, per the plan, we have 6 inches of plantable soil still being added to that area to pitch the water at a gentle slope towards the roadway, and that's the intention. So there is some rough uneven subsoil there right now, but we still have to put in the curb, and once you put in a curb of 4+ inches high, smoothing out subgrade, adding in 6 inches of plantable soil, you end up with enough soil and pitch to be able to pitch that back.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to get the quarter inch per foot that it calls for. We will definitely be able to get that without extending, over 6 feet. That's 1.5 inches. So if we need to put an extra 1.5 inches of material above where it is right now, or even if you say the 6 inches plus the 7 inches of material, I don't need to have the armored slope extended vertically in order to put 7 inches of material down. It can just be mounded at the top of the slope. So I don't, from the civil engineering standpoint, I can handle the shoulder and get it to the and get it draining to the road without Kevin providing any detail on extending the armored slope.
Mark, didn't we talk about this in one of our earlier meetings? And we talked about putting in some geofabric, some stone, and actually raising that to make a more positive flow in the event of splashover at the Cape Cod burn. Didn't we talk about that already? I thought we discussed that.
We never talked about splashover. There was discussion about erosion and making sure that area was stable, and we said that we were going to monitor that area of grass to make sure it's stable for 2 to 3 years, like we're going to do the shrubs. We did discuss making sure that the top of the armored slope had some good transition between the armored slope and the soil, so that way there wouldn't be kind of odd erosion that would occur along the top there. We added the silt fence at the top as well, just to provide additional erosion control for the armored slope while that soil is being established. But there was never a concern about splashover from that, again, because we have such a small drainage area. I don't think that that's a concern. But going back to VSC's comment about the slope, I think, Dominic, was that enough information for you on that, or do you want us to provide further clarification?
No, I mean, I think just for the record, we'll probably put it in writing, just to have it all cleared up. I guess my only other question at this point is just for clarification. Is this plan that you're showing now, I know you flattened out the toe embedment from, it had been 2 to 1 and now it's 3 to 1. So is the plan view currently showing 3 to 1, so it is showing the full impacts and full area for restoration?
Liz, can you confirm? I believe that's the case, that this is showing a 3 to 1 slope.
I believe it is. It looks right. So I'll tell you, the 284 to the 282 looks like a 3 to 1, but the 282 to the 280 might look a little tighter, but my eyes may just be deceiving me. We'll confirm that, okay. Because certainly, and then we actually properly show another 6. It looks like 6 feet to me from the 280 to the silt fence line, which means that there's room where topography isn't always perfect. So there's room for play there, even based on where we have the bottom of the grading and where the silt fence is. So I'm not concerned that even if we had to bump it out a little bit, if that 280 is a little too close to the 282, we still have plenty of room without moving the silt fence.
And then I guess, sorry, I said that was the last question, but I think
ask get as many questions out as you can.
So yeah, on that line, and I guess this is more of the process. I know on this plan you mentioned bringing in a mini excavator and either lowering it down or having it come behind. I think it's lots 80 and 81 over on the left, which just from when I was out there, that I think you're gonna end up lowering it down. How are you gonna get the soil down for the toe embedment?
I would think that the soil can pretty much be dumped from the top of the slope.
Like a big machine just reaching out and putting it down.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah, an
It'd be a
excavator.
two machine excavator up top, dropping soil down, and a small excavator down below, just helping with the finer
Spread it
grading.
out. Yeah.
shape and place it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I kind of initially thought you'd probably just do the whole thing from the top, but then you mentioned the mini excavator, so I wanted to make sure on that sense. And I mean, it wasn't initially included in there, but I'm assuming that UTS is going to provide some sort of spec for what the soil has to be, and it's going to be placed and compacted in lifts, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just maybe a common fill with topsoil, but we can provide something for that.
If we can just provide something that matches common fill in Mass DOT.
Yeah.
As long as as long as we know that it needs to be common fill is fine, and it doesn't need to be structural fill, then, which I wouldn't think you would need structural fill in that particular case, but if Kevin wanted it, we would certainly provide it.
And will you need filter fabric behind the fill area?
I'm sorry, what?
Filter fabric behind the fill area?
I don't think Kevin felt that was necessary to have any type of fabric be behind the actual toe embedment.
Okay. Well, we'll ask Dominic to put his thoughts in on that too, if it's not necessary and he doesn't recommend it. Okay. All right.
And then, sorry, one more thing was while we're here, and it's sort of assuming from the other section that you have, the more detailed one. Kevin, like they're doing the whole restoration down there. I think you've got, I don't know what it is, 9 trees and 24 shrubs or something for the restoration area. There's no concern. Are there any concerns about planting any of these things? Do they have to maintain a certain distance from the embankment? Are you worried about roots going anywhere in this, or is it just sort of
Kevin, if I recall correctly, vertical, which is why we showed it the way it is. I think it was you that asked us not to show it, not to show the plants vertically from the toe of the armored slope, right?
Oh, okay.
Maybe it wasn't you, Kevin. Somebody had mentioned it, so that's why we depicted it.
Our team's discussion, Dominic, was again, because roots can be intrusive. Our plan was to have trees planted along the edge, and then these are shrubs here, and then not to plant them closer than the toe of the original slope, so that way they're further enough away to ensure that this stays stable as nature establishes itself. I mean, long term, I don't think roots in that area are a concern, but this was just kind of a compromise. We didn't want to plant higher up just because we didn't want to have anything early on cause problems with the establishment of the toe embedment.
And I wouldn't expect the roots to head in that direction anyway, because the water is going to be in the other direction. Yeah. So the roots are going to head towards the sources of food. And those are pretty large rocks down there that make up the slope. I don't know if Kevin wants to speak to if he has any concern about roots dislodging. I would think it would have to be a pretty large tree.
Yeah, no, we don't have any issue. I mean, so with the roots or vegetation.
Okay, so I think we have a plan here. We are running a little late on our next hearing. So I think what we're proposing here, there is no meeting the second week in July. We're not able to get a quorum. So we're going to continue this to the second meeting in July, and we'll have to pay attention to what the legislature does, because unless they enact new legislation, it's going to be some form of meeting in person or hybrid, and we don't know exactly what, we don't know what it's going to be yet. So that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of July 27th at 8 o'clock.
So moved.
Do we think we would be in a position to have the order of conditions ready for that meeting?
But we should have the peer review letter in hand and your response to it. So we should be close.
Okay.
Second, or Arian did.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do this by roll call vote. Michael?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
Marianne?
Aye.
Okay, it's a unanimous vote. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Take care. Okay.
And can I just double check with Ann? I think that was the only thing I was on for tonight, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank
I
you,
didn't want to
Tom.
log. I didn't want to log off preemptively. So
Well, okay, we appreciate that.
We appreciate
you'll have my letter shortly. I have a list of stuff that didn't show up when I just held it up. But thank you. It was nice meeting you all. We'll be in touch soon.
No historical anecdotes? Come on. No,
I'm sorry. I will work on that for the next one.
Okay.
I have to fill in for Frank, and I don't know that I will ever know half as much history as he does.
Well, you'll always be half as old as he is. So that's okay.
But, I'm more than half as old. I'm definitely more than half as old. So. All right.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dominic.
Okay, we'll proceed to the next hearing. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed removal of a 12-foot by 35-foot section of an existing building, construction of a new 32 by 35-foot addition, installation of a new water line, new septic pipe, and minor grading located within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and Assessors Map 94, Parcel 51, 31 Portheria Street, Bellingham. Paul D. Simone, Colonial Engineering, All Street Medway, has submitted the filing on behalf of Social Villa Properties, Blackstone, Mass. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, June 22nd at 7:30. Apologies, we're running a little late. I think Steve is here and Gary. Okay. So, gentlemen, you're in receipt of the DEP file number document, and in that document, DEP noted the fact that it's a commercial property, and a stormwater checklist has to be provided. So,
can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name's Steve Dexter. I'm from Colonial Engineering. I'm representing Social Villa Properties and Gary Joliker. Yeah, we get that notice in from them with the file number and their comment that the applicant should demonstrate how the project meets the stormwater standards. As we previously discussed at the other meeting on site, that we were providing a roof recharge for the addition area and the 12-foot section that was to be raised and replaced. The groundwater on this site is very high, and the surrounding area is all gravel, and it's been recharging. It's been there for 80 plus years. I can appreciate the DEP being concerned, but we feel that for the scope of the project that our client isn't proposing to repave this whole site or add structures other than that addition to this? And is his intent to give the building a facelift and bring it up to, better standards for the neighborhood? The area that we're proposing is only 0.83 increase on, so less than 1% of the total lot area for this. And I just believe any further infiltrations or trenches, or even if you were to put a catch basin in the bottom of the catch basins, would be in the groundwater.
Okay. So, Steve, I believe that prior to filing the application, the administrator indicated that this was a commercial property and that a stormwater checklist would probably be required, that you could proceed at your own risk. But if DEP were to comment on that, this is a legal requirement. This isn't something that is, well, we believe this or we believe that, because it's a commercial property. You got to do the checklist. Now, you can put all of those variables into your narrative, but you're still going to have to deal with the checklist. It's the stormwater management standards. They've been around now for 15 years in this form. All commercial properties have to have some sort of way to address the stormwater. Now, you can explain the existing conditions, you can explain what you think, but right now, if we were to issue a permit, it would be appealed by DEP. And I know it's prideful, but DEP has never appealed one of our permits, and they are correct on this. And I think that our administrator imparted this knowledge to the applicant.
There was mention of it prior, yes. I just don't understand why you have an existing building and we'd have to change the drainage pattern of that existing part, or the gravel driveway, which does not have any runoff on it.
Well, what happened is the building had been existing there and probably no one would have known anything about it, but you had to file for work in the buffer zone, and that's subject to review under the stormwater management standards. It's pretty much as simple as that. Now, you know, it's a redevelopment project, so familiarize yourself with the standards because there might be some relaxed requirements for redevelopment, but you guys are the applicant's representative, so avail yourself of some review of that form, and I think that you may be able to come up with some kind of solution that will satisfy DEP and the commission. Remember, a redevelopment, you know, okay, a redevelopment project has to meet the standards to the maximum extent practicable. So Steve, look that up and see how that fits into your narrative.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
If we do not add the 20 feet, can we put in the water line and the septic system?
The application right now before us is for the water line, the septic system, and the expansion of the building. Any one of those three on a commercial site is going to trigger the review. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, and I know that you thought maybe this would fly by DEP, but it hasn't. And like I told Steve, there is some relief for redevelopment. So familiarize yourself with the standards and see if that will work to your benefit. That's the best advice I can give you. because you got to fill out the form.
Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Joliker that if he wants to request a continuation?
I think that would be very wise if you want to proceed with the project.
I mean, I'm all through my career, I've taken the worst property in Bellingham and Blackstone and fixed them up. It would never have cost me, you know, it really has hurt me now to say that I have to spend $25,000 just to say where the rainwater is going to go. When I know where it's going to go, even if we pay the engineer and we pay the do all the stuff you want, it's just going to go the same place. It's going out right on the ground into the bushes.
Gary, I'm going to tell you, you may not need engineered plans. It may not cost you $20,000 or $25,000. I'm going to say it one more time.
Yeah.
Look at the form and look for the relief that might be offered there. I can't keep telling you what to do, but.
All right. Yeah. All right. I appreciate that. So yeah, we'll continue this and we'll see what the DEP has to say.
Right. Get us the information and we'll give it a review. We've done a lot of this in the past. And so, and we know what the conditions are. So see what you can come up with, put your head together with Steve. We're not talking about engineered systems here. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the issue with that is I spoke to our engineer today and prior to this, and just for the checklist and the calculations on his end is time consuming and expensive. I'm assuming maybe there's relief for that. Is that what you're?
I can't tell you what your engineer is going to say. All I can say is that in the checklist,
yep.
I'll say it one more time and then we're going to move on.
All right.
Redevelopment provisions, there's some relief for redevelopment. It's the best extent practicable. So think about what exists there, talk to your engineer and fill out the checklist. That's the best I can do.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, in that case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of July 27th at 7:30.
So moved. Second.
Okay, by roll call, Mr. Stanley.
Aye.
Mr. O'Haron.
Aye.
Ms. Lois.
Aye.
And Ms. Barton.
Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, take care. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a driveway for a single-family dwelling located in the buffer zone to isolated vegetated wetlands at Assessors Map 80, Parcel 12A, 3 Railroad Street, Bellingham. Bill Halsey, Land Planning, Hartford Avenue, Bellingham, has submitted the filing on behalf of Felicia Burr, 75 Railroad Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held on the evening of June 22nd at 7:45. Apologies, we're running a couple of minutes late.
Good evening.
Hi, Bill. Okay.
All right, as directed at our last meeting, we added a fence to the plan and submitted it both electronically and 2 paper copies. I believe that was everything we had to do.
That's it. Okay. As per our discussion at the last meeting, we developed the waiver request and the special conditions and distributed it for comment. We received no comment. Are there any additional comments or questions relative to the okay? That being the case,
Mr. Chair, quick question. Just to the last line on the variance waiver, rather, the waiver about, it refers to lot 3 is, I'm trying to get it up here. I was like, read it off here. Come on, back up one. Waiver request. Okay, here we go. Says the frontage for lot 3 is within the riverfront area. So the rest of it has been referring to and talking about the waiver request to put the road in and cross over the within 25 feet of wetland with the culvert and so forth. And that's related to lots 1 and 2. We aren't in any way permitting lot 3 to go forward or to get, not to go forward, to, we're not reviewing lot 3, a proposal for any development in lot 3, correct? Because we haven't done a delineation of the wetlands area, resource area confirmation or anything like that. Is that right?
I'm missing your point, Mike.
So this is basically, the waiver is involving lots 1 and 2. Neil had brought this up at the last meeting.
Oh, it's lot 3.
No, it's lot 3.
Okay, well, because it goes to lot 3, but it's got an easement over lot 2, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. So I was just seeing whether the statement, the frontage for lot 3 is within the riverfront area. We haven't done any kind of delineation of the wetlands in lot 3, back by where the house was proposed to be and so forth.
That's how they got the zoning, Mike. They had frontage on Railroad Street of sufficient length to allow for the lot to be subdivided, but they didn't have the ability to put the driveway through the resource area, so they got an easement on lot 2, and that's how they're accessing the lot.
Right. No, I understand that, all that. Neil, what I'm trying to not very well articulate is Neil had brought up a point at the last meeting about the wetlands within lot 3, I believe it is, to the, I want to say south, I'm not sure if that's the right direction, on the plans below where the house is proposed to be. There's a wetlands area marked.
Associated with Peters River.
Right, which we had not delineated. I think Neil's question was, we haven't delineated any of that. We didn't walk that or anything when you and I and Noel were out there with Ann. And the answer was no, we hadn't. Is there a plan or a need to do that? Delineation is down the road, is what I'm accustomed to.
The nearest activity is 125 feet from the edge of the resource area. And typically, when it's that distance away, we don't go out and, we don't verify the resource area.
Right, that resource area though, 125 feet from the resource area that we had not delineated, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I thought that we usually would agree with that if we knew the delineation was accurate, and we usually confirm the delineation is accurate by a site visit. I'm not urging a site visit. I'm just trying to make sure I understood. We didn't walk that area. We didn't look at that area. I understand the house is going to be more than 125 feet away from a delineated area, but if we didn't delineate it, we're just taking a peer reviewer.
The word of the professional wetland scientist that they're not off by 25 feet. That's
okay,
right.
I mean, just bringing it up because it had been raised and sort of answered at the last meeting. I just want to make sure I understood it right. Okay, that's all I had a question about.
we'll go back to the procedures. I'll entertain a motion to sign and issue the developed permit for Lot 3 on Railroad Street and close the hearing and issue the prepared order of conditions.
So moved.
Marianne,
Second.
Noel, any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, I will ask for a roll call. Ariane,
Aye.
Noel,
Aye.
Neil,
Nay.
Michael.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 3-1, we'll issue the permit. At some point, we have to figure out a signature, but we'll wait on that until we see what other items might have to be signed and find an advantageous time to complete that.
Bill, does this order go to you?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And actually, Ann, if just give us a call when it's ready, we'll probably pick it up.
Oh, sure, fine. Very good.
Okay. Next item in the agenda.
Thank you much. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bill.
take care.
Bye.
Oops. Excuse me. All right. Next item in the agenda is an informational presentation for a proposed warehouse behind the Home Depot site. We have Austin Turner, Jeff Curley are present. Gentlemen, if you'd like to make your presentation, please.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Matthews, and I think Ann's sister on the corner there.
She is.
And members of the commission. Some of you probably remember me, and I may have had some more hair when I was in front of you last time. Some of you might not, but we'll go through some history quickly. And I'm joined this evening by Mr. Curley, legendary Mr. Curley, who I think many of you are familiar with.
Good evening, all.
But we're here this evening. We've been working on this property for a long time, and the commission had issued us an order for a project on this site some years ago, maybe 2015, I believe, ish, and you were gracious enough to grant us a continuation of that as we continue to work with and partner with the town and the state on some offsite improvements. So what I thought we'd do tonight is just kind of briefly introduce you to what we're working on right now, give you a quick history, and then answer any questions you might have in the brief time that we are given this evening. We're going to be working with you pretty closely here in the immediate future. So I'll just pop my screen up real quick.
Absolutely.
Let me know when folks can see that, please.
We can see it.
Okay, great. So property we're taking a look at is, as Mr. Matthews mentioned, is generally, this is kind of the development footprint here. The property itself is substantially larger and in fact extends out to North Main Street, but the development footprint that we're really working on is kind of concentrated up in this corner immediately behind Home Depot. You can see 495 here, and then Route 126. And we have, and particularly Jeff and his team, have been working with the town for years, probably, Jeff, right now, partnering to improve Route 126. And a lot of the time that we've been spending has been focused on how to make that come together. There's a tremendous amount of momentum behind it right now. And this project is kind of the, I guess, the engine, if you will, that's helping support some of that work. So in its previous form, this was the shops project. I'm sure it carries quite the name and some legend in town. Just for context, this is 495 running kind of along the left side of the screen, and Route 126 running along the left side here. And this project was about 600,000 square feet of mixed use. It included retail, office, restaurant, a number of different features. It also included, or the state and the Federal Highway Administration were proposing at the time some pretty significant upgrades to this, which was exit 18 at the time. And we were kind of working, I guess, in concert to make sure that our project at least married up with what they were contemplating. That's taken such a long time and frankly has kind of lagged a little bit. So the interchange improvements are not part of what the state and the feds are looking at currently. But Route 126 has been needed to be improved for 20 some odd years. And there's a lot of impetus right now and urgency to get that improved. So that's where the state's focus is going. This project, being the shops in its prior form, included a very lengthy roadway that extended all the way down to North Main Street. And this area right here, this was a crossing of an existing wetland area, which was the focus of much of the discussion we had related to this project. We are not proposing that anymore. So I think, folks are frankly probably pretty relieved that that crossing is no longer being considered right now as part of this application. What we are working on now is this here. So this is more of a compact footprint. The footprint of the building itself is similar to the shops. It's about 600,000 square feet. We are working generally in the same footprint. In fact, it's probably a bit more compact than the shops was previously. And that long kind of roundabout road that you were looking at previously it kind of came through here in this corridor, snuck around and then extended into that driveway. So that is no longer part of this project. What's also beneficial is, because this is going to be far less of an intense use, we're actually working on, and the project is accessing the site through the existing Crossroads shopping center. So we're using the signalized access here and the perimeter loop road that serves Home Depot and some of the other uses in that shopping center, and extending it through to serve the project. Whereas previously, there was such a combination of uses that were substantially higher traffic generators. That was impossible and was kind of dovetailing in with what Federal Highway and Mass DOT were looking at for the exit 18 improvements. What was contemplated before and what the commission approved included some pretty substantial mitigation packages. It included some areas, generally speaking, in this window here and up in this corner, which were going to be put into kind of a permanent conservation easement. And we're very much committed to maintaining those as part of this project. With that as well, we've had some initial conversations with the town and have been able to get some additional information with respect to a project on Mechanic Street that I believe Lincoln Properties was doing, and may have been a recent approval by the commission, that had, as we understand it, was kind of the gold standard, if you will, in terms of mitigation aspects, how that wanted to be enabled, some of the design considerations associated with that. And we're using that essentially as a guide in terms of how any mitigation considerations and some of the replication that may be required for this project are going to be designed and ultimately implemented. So we're pretty excited to be working with you again. It's been a little while, and we're really eager to kind of get engaged. The first thing we wanted to do was, in speaking with Cliff and Ann briefly, was to use this as an informational session for the commission. You're going to have a lot of questions, I'm sure. I don't know that we're going to get too granular tonight, because we want to make sure you can keep on with your regular agenda and respect the time that we've been given. But we did want to make an introduction to the project, kind of get through some of the initial discussions that you may have questions for us. And most importantly, that we're kind of excited to re-engage and work with you on this. I don't know, Jeff, if you wanted to add anything or had any additional.
Only that, as Austin mentioned, I was the one that was before you last fall, pursuing the extension of the existing order of conditions. And I did indicate that we would come back in the spring. We had at the time been working with local town government and your state rep on the 126 corridor. And as Austin said, had been focusing very much on the traffic solutions that were necessary for any scope of development to go forward back here. And I had committed to come back in the spring. We're a little late. Some of the mechanisms we thought that might be an option for us in terms of funding for the roadway improvements didn't quite materialize. We do have an option that we're pursuing in partnership with the town. They've made an application to the state for part of the funding for the roadway improvement. So that explains a little bit of the lag as to why we're a few months behind where we had hoped to be in terms of coming back in front of the commission with an application. But as Austin said, we're very excited to move forward. He'll tell you I'm leaning on him every other day to get the application pulled together, to get things filed with the commission, hopefully later this summer, and begin our process of a review.
Any questions that the commission had, or any kind of additional things we could kind of help you get at least familiar with kind of the new direction that this project is taking, we'd be happy to run through any of that with you.
Yeah, Austin, are we approaching this from a state permit point of view, or are we approaching this from a state and a local permit at the same concurrently, or how are we approaching that this time?
So we're going to work on that. I mean, ultimately, there was so much work that went into that existing order, right? The one that is active currently that kind of addressed the Wetland Protection Act and the state jurisdictional items. We want to maintain that and preserve it. We acknowledge fully that we have to work through the local jurisdictional items too, which were not addressed in the original order, because that bylaw kind of got adopted as we were working through that process already. And Neil, I remember you and I were working pretty closely on that last version too. So the local bylaw was something we intentionally acknowledged, but didn't address in the order. It was strictly for the state. So this application will be addressing the local bylaw related items.
So this is a new application?
I'm sorry?
Will this be a new application?
As it relates to the local bylaw, it will, and we're still going to be working, with Cliff and Ann and the commission about how to continue to enable the existing order and all the work that went into that. And what vehicle this application comes in for that is still a little bit of a question mark, but we're going to be honing in on that shortly.
Well, I think that a meeting has already taken place, just so that the commission understands, and that an amendment to the original order of conditions is not going to be acceptable. It's in light of the fact that it's a whole new project. So I think to more accurately identify the answer for Ariane, it's going to be a new filing. It's a new project. This is a new project. It's completely different.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Of course.
So Austin, there's no plans for a second roadway into that location as we're seeing on the plans, is that correct?
No, sir.
Just right the one down behind Home Depot.
Correct. That's okay. Our plan, right?
Yeah. And that is the old cart path that we pointed out a couple of years ago as a possible option to going through the wetlands and having that long road and the bridge and all, correct?
Yeah. So the shops, just kind of go back to this plan here. This general alignment for the access, even when it was tying into what was going to become the improved exit 18, followed generally the alignment of the cart path. What's different now is that at the time, because it's such a high traffic generator, we couldn't use that access through Home Depot and kind of, right on the aerial, this access is kind of gated right through there to get down into that. We're going to be using that now, or at least this plan intends to use it. You can kind of see right here. We're going to do some minor reconfiguring of the parking and then use that driveway, mirror its alignment to the extent that we are able, and have that become the access for the property.
So at the bottom, I'm not going to dive into the weeds literally here, but with that parking area, as you start to go down the slope and have that
right here,
is that just past the crossing area? There was a small over culvert area, wetlands area and so forth at the bottom of the slope. I remember walking that a number of times. Where is that in relation to this parking area? Just to put me in perspective.
so that the crossing you're referring to is, if you can see my cursor, it's right about here.
Okay.
And
right,
we're
so
just a bit further south of that.
That's a parking area, okay. And so seeing similar warehouse projects in town that have gone in place, Campanella is the one I'm thinking of at the moment. The fire department, I believe, required a secondary means of access if the main road was not accessible for fire vehicle access. You're not providing a second means of access to this site through any other means?
Not currently, no. No, we're going to be working with the fire department closely, but we haven't been informed that we're going to have to extend out to North Main Street or anything like that in terms of the secondary access.
Well, just to save us a lot of hearings and review and so forth that might need to be started all over again, I would really urge that get determined right away, because if you do have to go over to North Main or some other way, it's obviously going to impact the site and potential wetlands and our review and so forth. And I've not been on this particular project as many years as Cliff, Ann, and Neil have, but it's been enough years that I feel like this is the continuing saga that never goes away. So I just want to expedite, if you are going to do a review, to make sure that initial question, which might impact the wetlands, again, that's a fire department. I'm not trying to say anything for them, safety issue, but it would impact us in our review process if we have to look at another road down the road, literally, that's accessed from through the site in some other direction.
Certainly, that's a good point, and that's what Jeff and I are going to be working on that. So the applications that we put forth to you are going to have some of those questions answered. We're getting into those discussions right now.
I have another question.
Sorry.
That access road, does that go through an area that the Home Depot Plaza currently uses for stormwater? It looks like, I'm not sure if those culverts and those basins are associated with the highway or Home Depot, but do you happen to know?
Yeah, I do. So that it kind of flanks that area. Right now, we're optimistic that we'll be able to avoid it. We may have to do some minor refinement to that basin to accommodate the driveway, but we're trying to maintain it. It's a Home Depot basin, is how that functions.
Okay.
It's a good question though, because that basin is generally kind of right in this location here.
Yeah, it looks like there's like a path that goes over it right now, but it's not paved. So I wasn't sure if it was going to affect their stormwater or their pervious pavement.
I don't think it's going to, in terms of their layout on site, it's probably limited. We'll have some limited refinement of how the parking is configured. And we're intending to keep that basin intact. Obviously we have to improve the driveway, but the goal is to maintain that basin in its function right now.
Okay.
So Ariane, there's actually two basins. There's one directly behind Home Depot, and then there's one with Home Depot behind you on the left. And you'll probably, if you've ever been out there, you very rarely see water in those basins.
Yeah, I used to go sledding in the winter in them.
Down that hill?
Yep.
Okay.
On the old sledding basin.
So there was never a whole lot of water in the basins because we were able to achieve a 90% infiltration rate site-wide on that. There was something like 10 or 15 feet of gravel. And so far it's still continued to accommodate that. Those basins were for the 100-year storm overflow. We've had several 100-year storms. So there is, I guess the thing is, from a geotechnical standpoint, there are awesome soils there for infiltration. So if they need to provide a little more for their roadway, it's going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the site itself is an old sand and gravel pit. So most of the work that we've done out here already, it's almost beach sand.
I think it's interesting, Austin, that one of the hangups represented to us last time why this approach next to Home Depot using the existing road couldn't be used was due to an ownership issue, and now it's represented that it was more due to a traffic issue, but at the time it was represented that it was an ownership issue.
Yeah, no, I remember those conversations.
Even though both parcels had the same address on the ownership paperwork, which
I remember those conversations. I can see Cliff smiling actually, because I remember this conversation and I knew this was going to be the question I had to answer, because so there's two things. Traffic was one and ownership was the second. And in the 8 years that have transpired, Jeff and his team have been able to reconcile the ownership issue too. And particularly with the improvements to exit 18 not happening, it didn't make sense to be putting a secondary access through there. So when you couple that with Jeff figured out the ownership stuff, the traffic is substantially less than this driveway can accommodate it. It makes more sense to be using this driveway. And I remember that being a substantial sticking point with the commission previously.
This access has always made more sense.
Well, to the commission it did.
Does the, I know I'm not going to dive into the weeds again, we'll talk about engineering, but on the section of the slope that is the steepest going down from the parking lot at Home Depot towards that other little parking lot area, walking up and down it a couple times, again, it's been probably 6 years since we last walked it. It seems to me that it's a pretty steep slope. It's not insignificant. I don't know what the ratio is, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 2 to 1, whatever. But it also slopes down towards the detention basin that you had circled earlier, Austin. I'm envisioning not cars going up and down it, as it would have mostly been with the shops project and some trucks, but now basically some cars, obviously for employees, but a lot, I don't know how many bays you got shown there, but for 600,000 square feet, I'm going to guess at least 100 bays.
Yeah, and see, it'll be more truck traffic than regular car.
Oh, I'm betting. So I'm picturing 18 wheelers hauling up the hill and down the hill, slowing, braking, and so forth. There's going to be a fair bit of reinforcement along that section as it slopes downward towards the site that you want to develop, as well as down towards 495. Drops off in both directions, if I remember right. You're going to keep well clear of the detention basin, that although it infiltrates great and hasn't needed to, you're not going to be impacting that, you don't think, to armor the slope and create a road where there's
Mike.
Yeah.
What we're doing now is we're getting into project review.
I'm just asking if they're considering that as a major rebuild because it might impact the infiltration basin.
So the short answer to that is yes, and we're going to be working with the geotechnical team. But the longer answer, there's be nerdy engineering stuff that I get to talk about later.
That's fine.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess, you know, the last issue I would like to raise, and I think the administrator provided Austin with the information that we gained when the raw water main for the town of Bellingham went from the town well out to Hartford Avenue and over to Stallbrook. I don't know if everyone, I know some of our members weren't even on the board then, but the raw water main followed the cart path right out to Hartford Avenue, and then it went down to the Stallbrook water treatment plant. During that time, the commission identified four vernal pools, and it looks to me like they might be in or under the area of the parking and the roadway where the cul-de-sac is.
In here?
Yeah, in that area. And in addition to that, there's somewhere around 36,000 square feet of isolated vegetated wetlands proposed to be filled under the footprint of the building itself and the parking area. And their environmental consultants, LEC, identified one of those as a portion of which could be a vernal pool. And when the administrator myself met informally with Austin for, you know, our presentation, we talked about the need to go out and evaluate those resource areas and make sure that they were quantified and characterized properly even before a filing. We want to be clear and honest with people relative to what could be or might not be permissible with the new filing. And I know that LEC spent a great deal of time and effort under the building footprint. I don't know if they've had an opportunity to look at the roadway, but as Mike was suggesting earlier, all those impacts are going to have to be addressed. And I kind of mentioned to Austin that the commission might want to avail themselves of a site visit to familiarize ourselves with the site conditions with the environmental consultant. Now, I don't know what the board feels about that. We haven't discussed it. A couple of our newer members haven't even seen the site, except for sliding down the hill.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it.
Okay. So you know where the identified vernal pools are?
Nope.
Okay.
I
So
agree we should go out though, but I'm wondering, would it make sense to go out without them having flagged every location and thoroughly redone the wetland delineation?
well, I think what we're looking at here is we're looking to try to get a handle on the work that's been done by LEC, the environmental consultant, and to see if it's accurate in terms of the total amount of impact. Because obviously, you know, if the commission feels that there's a problem with the impact or with the mitigation, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to keep driving the project forward and spending money. Quite a bit of that's already been spent. So I think it might be advantageous for them and for the commission to take a look at it and make sure, A, that the areas of impact have been properly identified, and B, that they have been quantified properly. Does that make sense?
Have they done the prep? Is everything marked?
Well, I don't know if LEC's marked it or if they have sufficient familiarity to provide a tour. What, Austin, what's your?
I mean, yeah, so it's a combination of both. There's obviously some historical flags out here. It's been years, and LEC has been on this property for years looking at it. And they've been looking at it, you know, both in the context of the building footprint, but Cliff, also to your point, along the access road, along the corridor of the town's water line. They have that information. They were aware of it prior, and they're looking at all those things.
Okay.
We probably have to reestablish the flags in the field by way of survey, you know, because it's been a little while. And even some of the LEC's flags that may have been hung over the last couple of years may need to be refreshed, just because those things tend to go away over time. And I think, you know, if the commission does want to do a sidewalk, it was probably beneficial to at least have some bearings established in the field, so we can know, okay, that's this area and that's this area. And I think, you know, speaking for Jeff a little bit, but I think we'd be happy to do that and then work with the commission, whatever we collectively think is appropriate.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I think we are relying to some degree as far as the state jurisdiction and the prior delineations that have been approved under the original order that again was extended last fall. So LEC has spent a couple of years out here evaluating the existing delineation and have looked very closely at the prior approved delineation and evaluated it for themselves to get comfortable here. I think we understand that we have in front of us, you know, we need to make a strong application here. We need to defend our delineation. We need to defend the characterization of the resource areas, and in turn offer a mitigation package that we feel, and we've talked a lot about it among the team, feel very good about, feel as if we can put forward a very strong, very good mitigation package to offset the impacts that the project will no doubt have on some of the existing resource areas here. I think we'd like to put that down on paper, put it forward, and be happy to complete a site walk out here. As Austin indicated, we do need to reflag and verify existing flags and get all that stuff back surveyed to match the existing delineation, the existing approved delineation. But I think it in my mind, it would make more sense for us to advance the application a little bit further and to be able to defend the project from that perspective for the commission's benefit. And certainly expect to, have several site walks here as part of this as we move forward into the process.
Okay. I mean, that makes perfect sense. No, if it were possible, would it be possible for the commission to go out unguided to take a look at a couple of those areas to see if there's been any change in 17 years? Would you have any objection to that?
Let me look into, we don't own the land today. We have the land under an option to purchase.
Still Varney.
So I've got it. Pardon me? Yes, it is. We still have the land. We have an option to purchase the land that we've kept current going back to the original project. So let us do a little homework to confirm any stipulations there as it relates to that. And then we'll circle back with the administrator and get you some guidance on that.
Okay, so yeah, and I'm sure you can explain to the Varneys that we'll be a lot less obtrusive than the intrusive than the ATVs and dirt bikers that are out there all the time.
Or those sledders.
I don't know, Cliff, I thought you were going to take like a Harley out here and do your tour on the Harley, is what Ann told me.
I'm sorry?
Ann told me you were going to take your Harley out here and kind of ride around.
Oh, no, yeah, well, I don't have one of those. That's okay. All right, well, I think this is instructive. I think that we've developed a bit of a strategy moving forward. I think Jeff and Austin have a good handle on a way to proceed. And I want to thank them for coming in and giving the quick Cook's tour of the new project.
Yeah, and thank you for the commission for taking the time tonight. I know it's been a little bit of a work in progress here, but we appreciate it and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, gentlemen.
As I've alluded to, lot of moving parts related to this one, and we're anxious to get the project itself into the local process. So thank you for your time and your patience.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night, everybody.
Okay,
good night.
Okay, we have some more business. Not much. I think the administrator distributed some information relative to the drought.
Yes, she did.
Okay, and why is that important? Because when we were out on the site, we were out on Prospect Hill with Lou Peterzal, and he was already saying, "Oh, look, that brook is drying up. That brook is drying up right there." So anyway, yeah, he wasn't aware of the fact that there was a drought. So we do have a couple of things that we're going to need to get signed. Any idea? Hartford Village, the administrator and I visited Hartford Village. They requested a certificate of compliance, and once again, sediment erosion controls are still in place. So she contacted the owner, and supposedly they've had them removed. We're going to try to get out there and verify that. What might be a good time? When might folks be available to do some signing?
I can't do this weekend.
Okay.
I
Oh,
could do maybe early next week.
early next week.
I could do tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, you can sign the certificate. Okay, that's a help.
How about like a Monday evening or Tuesday evening? Oh, Tuesday's bad. Monday evening.
For me?
For anyone, if everybody can make it, we'll make it.
What do you mean by evening?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. When would you be available? The office, the town offices are open till 7, but you know, it's just I have
on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I could be there after work, Ann, so probably 5:30-ish.
Okay, Neil at 5:30.
On Monday.
Yeah.
Ariane, do you think you could make it in that neck of the woods?
Maybe. We're doing summer hours, so we get out at 5:15, but I could like not do it next week and get out at 4:45 instead, which would be 5:30.
Wait a minute, I'm like,
so she can make 5:30 on Monday. Neil can make 5:30.
I'd call it 5:45 just to be safe.
5:45. Neil, is that okay with you?
No, he can come. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Mike?
Whenever you're ready. You ready tomorrow, Friday?
Noel, any chance you could make a Monday?
I can't do Monday. I could potentially do tomorrow evening, afternoon.
Tomorrow's Thursday. What time?
Yeah, what time would work for you?
Probably a little before 5 or 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock Thursday. It's tomorrow. Okay, at my office?
Anywhere is fine, but yeah, your office is a good location.
Okay.
Well, we can have her come here.
No, I'll go down there.
Okay.
Okay, so then, Mike, just send me an email or something. Let me know.
Yeah, tomorrow morning. Everything's ready, right? I mean, you don't have to do any more paper. I don't rush you.
Yeah, just have to have your sign.
Do we have anything else here?
Let's see. Okay, so we don't have the minutes ready. Okay, so the MACC annual dues are due too, so we'll have to get that signed. All right. I think
just so you know, I did do the minutes a couple weeks ago, and I did some.
Gina, I haven't had an opportunity to do my cursory review. It's my fault. I'm usually a little better, but it's been pretty busy. So
you did get them done rather quickly.
You did.
Appreciate that.
We do.
Yeah. On a weekend, come on, really? That's a little too eager.
Really do appreciate it. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and
open meeting. We don't know the status of
that's right. So we don't know the status of meeting on the 27th of July because Zoom or remote hearings are ended on July 15th. So we'll have to pay attention to anything we get from the state to see if they're going to enact further legislation. The Senate said we would be able to meet via Zoom until the end of the year, and the House has not acted on it. So we may have to meet in person moving forward.
So this is going to be a little tricky particularly with us, because we're going to be on vacation the 2 weeks prior to that. So I'll just try to be paying attention to find out what the status is. And I'll let you guys know as soon as I know anything.
Because they would notify you as administrator, not us as commissioners, correct?
Well,
MACC, do you get the MACC electronic bulletins?
Usually, yeah.
It'll be on those.
Yeah.
Okay. They just had something today, a workshop. I missed it about the Blackstone Valley watershed future planning and so forth in the Clear Towns. I don't know if anybody was able to catch it or MICC effort.
We weren't able to do it, but yeah.
I wasn't able to. I missed it until just thought it was.
So I I guess that's it.
Okay, so I would just ask you to please, any of you, just to confirm by email that you are coming on the time you said you were going to come. All right.
Sure.
Okay, appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay.
Good luck with your troubleshooting tomorrow with the computer.
I have no idea what that was all about. You know, it worked this morning.
Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, buddy. See you later.
Take care now.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.